What's going on, everybody? C4 here, still battling through a cold, so bear with me if my voice sounds a little terrible. Not even cold, it's bronchitis. But today, we are continuing our 2018 draft breakdown by going through our 2.0 rankings, and we are going to be looking at the top 5 safeties in this upcoming NFL draft class. Now, the first time around, we just classified them all as defensive backs because I felt like it was a logjam. I didn't really know to make a definitive list, so I figured let's just group them all together. Now it's a lot more clear. My rankings are a lot more clear. My mindset on this class is a lot more clear, so we have just divided it up. You would have watched the corners already. Now let's talk about the safeties. And when I talk about the safeties, kind of like the linebackers, I'm only doing 5, but I think all 5 of these guys can definitely carve out a role as a rookie in the NFL day one. So my original safety rankings, at number 5 we had Marcus Allen from Penn State, number 4 is Ronnie Harrison, number 3 was Kaiser White, number 2 was Minkah Fitzpatrick, and at number 1 was Derwin James. Things have changed a little bit, one new name, but other than that I still kind of have 4 guys. Those 4, James, Fitzpatrick, White, and Harrison, are included. I have a little bit more in-depth notes than what I provided with the first one. And again, with safeties, things could change a little bit barring the combine. I know Derwin James probably is looking at putting up staggering numbers. There might be a couple other guys that kind of rise up, maybe like a Marcus Williams from last year from Utah, or Jordan Jones. Both those guys had really good combines, and they shot up on a lot of people's draft boards. So this is definitely a position we probably will revisit after the combine. So before we jump in, I have 3 honorable mentions at the safety spot that I really am fans of, and I think that they should definitely get drafted. I would say the guys that I don't talk about probably will get drafted between rounds 3 and 5. And I'm definitely excited to see them play. So number 3 is Quinn Blanding from Virginia. Guy's a tackle machine. I don't know how well he's going to be in coverage, but for an in-the-box safety, he's definitely one of the best in the class. Great tackling mechanics, big-time hitter. Number 2 is Deshaun Elliott from Texas. He's one of those guys, really want to see how well he tests in terms of a cover safety. He can pretty much do it all. I don't know how well he's going to be at setting an edge, coming down in the box, laying the hit. But then again, it's all what you need. You need your line, but setting edge, having a guy come off the side, he has a blitz back, that's more a Blanding type, but it's more so people want complete safety. So you either want the tackler in Blanding, which we had at 3, or you want the guy that can cover more, and Elliott at number 2. And at number 1 is Marcus Allen, who was in our rankings the first time around, just kind of a little bit short. Again, more of the in-the-box big-time hitter, but again, I want to see with his size, if he tests really well. Talking about Penn State safeties, Adrian Amos is pretty damn good. Not nearly the same type of cover, but they've been producing some pretty good safeties out of Penn State, so he's definitely one to watch. So without further ado, let's jump into the top 5. At number 5, we have Armani Watts from Texas A&M, 5'11", 205 pounds. On the season, he had 87 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 5 pass deflections, and 3 forced fumbles. Great stat lines there. When you look at the positives, he's a very good athlete. He might be the 3rd best cover safety in the draft, and he has really good production at Texas A&M. He's one of those guys that at times play a little bit of cornerback at Texas A&M, and when you have that versatility, for me, when you look at my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, we have Malcolm Jenkins. He was a corner that could get converted. I really do think that big corners that can tackle, can certainly be converted to safety and excel, and it's definitely somewhat scheme dependent. So I think Armani Watts' value is going to be different depending on what kind of defensive scheme that you run. But ultimately, when you are a safety that can tackle pretty well in open space, is a good athlete, as well as not a liability in coverage, teams are definitely want to draft you. Look at the negatives from Armani Watts. He's kind of meh versus the run. Again, he's a little bit undersized, but I mean 205 is not bad. He only gives up probably 10-15 pounds to some of the bigger names we're talking about. And that's not too drastic, especially because you can bulk up a little bit. Then again, with the smaller frame, I don't know how much more room he has to add on weight. And his tackling is average. We'll say average. And again, at today's day and age, like we talked about a couple of the honorable mentions, teams really, if you're going to invest a big-time pick, you want your safety to be complete. You don't want a guy that's more weighted to one to the other. Those are the guys you draft when you use your lesser picks on, not your top-of-the-line picks. Especially nowadays, when you need safeties safeties aren't like they used to be. Safeties before, we just needed you to make sure that people didn't want to throw across the middle because you're gonna blow them up. Nowadays, they want guys that are ball hawks. They want guys that can stop these dual threat running backs out the backfield. But I definitely think a guy like Armani Watts certainly has a fit in this league and will be probably second, 3rd round pick come draft time. Going to safety number 4 is going to be Kaiser White from West Virginia, 6'2", 215 pounds. On the season, he had 94 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, 4 pass deflections, and 2 forced fumbles. When you look at the positives, obviously he is, great lineage. He's the brother of Kevin White, doesn't have nearly as much injuries. I think he has another brother who was at West Virginia, he declared. The White family is pretty damn athletic. When you look at Kaiser, he has really good football IQ. He's a big time hitter, can lay the lumber, and he's versatile. Some people, if you're depending on what scouting report you read, thinks that he could be a money backer in the NFL. He has the frame, definitely has the frame when you look at him. Even though he's 215, he looks like he could probably walk around, carry about 230. When you get to that territory, a Deon Buchanan, a Mark Barron, I think he has the instincts and the hit power to be able to, the physicality, anyways, that's probably the best word, the physicality to play a linebacking role in the NFL, but also the coverage ability, I think, to stay at safety, depending on what a DC truly sees from him. The negative for him is he is somewhat combine-based. I'm really interested to see how well he tests. Doesn't look like the greatest athlete, but, if he can get in the 4.5s, somewhere like that, certainly could help his draft stock out. We've seen the last couple of years safeties that have had some speed concerns running in the 4.6s, the 4.7s. I definitely think a good combine can certainly help Kaiser White. I don't know, even with White and Watts, depending on how well they test, if they can get into the top 3. I think the top 3 is fairly safe right now, barring any injury that happens between now and the draft. But I definitely do think that this is a very, very strong safety class. And if you need one, it's a good time to need one. And Kaiser White could definitely fill that need. Going to safety number 3, it is going to be Ronnie Harrison from Alabama, 6'3", 215 pounds. On the season, he had 74 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, and 4 pass deflections. We look at Ronnie Harrison. He is, your height, weight, speed that you look for in a safety. He's good versus the run, solid against pass coverage. Kind of, he's just like, if this was a different draft class, he could very well be the #1 safety. It's just the fact that 2 of the best safeties of the last 5 years just happened to declare the year he did. But he's another one of those Alabama safeties. I definitely think he could probably start somewhere. Should be a first-round pick. I think I've had him mocked to the Carolina Panthers a couple times in my mock drafts. Would be a great fit there. And, it's one of those things when I'm trying to say what the difference is between him and why he's at 3 and doesn't have a shot at being #2, #1. The only thing I can really say is just he's #1 and #2 are just that good. That Ronnie Harrison, just because he's good versus the run and solid in pass coverage, he has no real weakness, but he's not truly excellent. That's one single thing where the other guys are. That's the reason why we have him at #3. But again, if he improves his tackling, which is really the only negative I have for a guy that's that big, sometimes he whiffs on tackles in open space, his composure can get rattled. That's stuff that comes with experience. That's things that come with, getting with a good DC, getting with a good positional coach in the NFL. I think he'll be fine, so he should go in the first round. Going to safety number 2, it is going to be Derwin James from Florida State, my original #1. He moved down. He lost a spot. 6'3", 215 pounds. On the season, he had 84 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 11 pass deflections. When you look at the positives of Derwin James, he's an absolute freak athlete. He is going to test incredibly well at the combine. I've seen a lot of people saying, man, he's going to be the next Jabril Peppers. There's very little similarity between Derwin James and Jabril Peppers. The only thing that they kind of have that was similar is their flexibility on defense. I straight up said last year, man, Jabril Peppers is not going to live up to the hype if he gets picked in the first round. There's a steep learning curve that he's going to have to go through, and we saw it happen. He did not play well at all for the Cleveland Browns. Definitely not bad enough that you can give up with him or really throw the bust tag on him, but he's a work in progress. But when you look at Derwin James, he is a plug-and-play starter day 1. That is, a little bit of a project, not a finished product, but he's pretty close. When you look at Derwin James, like I said, freak athlete. He's good versus the run and has an incredibly high ceiling. He definitely has the highest ceiling out of all the safeties that we're talking about. When you look at the negatives of Derwin James, he's inconsistent at times. He's average in deep coverage. He's one of those guys that, luckily for him, he's athletic enough that he has the makeup speed if he does get overzealous or gets a little bit lost downfield. But like I said, in today's day and age where you want a little bit more of a complete safety, that's the difference between him being at #1 and him being at #2. But again, almost in a 1A, 1B scenario, depends what your team wants. If you want the guy that can come in the box and more so lay lumber, this is the guy that you want. This guy would be the #1 safety on your draft board. If you want a guy that can drop back into coverage a little bit more, then he's not going to be #1, and the guy that we're going to talk about in just a second is the guy you want. But I think Derwin James ultimately is very much a first-round pick. Right now, it seems like a lot of mocks have him in the second half of the draft. And I think if he tests as well as some people are thinking he's going to at the combine, his draft stock can absolutely shoot up. Like, he might have some Obi Melifonwu type numbers. Be prepared. And number one, the number one safety in this year's draft class is Minkah Fitzpatrick from Alabama. Had him at number 2 last time. Again, no one really knows if he's so versatile. He could be a corner, he could be a safety. We have to wait and see, but ultimately I do think he will be playing safety in the NFL. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. On the season, he had 60 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 7 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. Maybe the positives of Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's excellent in coverage because he has that background playing corner. So, I mean, he can't cover up against wide receivers, and he has that safety responsibilities that he definitely can match up with tight ends and running backs. So because of that, the coverage ability, his versatility he brings it. Depending on what packages, you could have him play a little bit of corner. You can have him play nickel. You can have him play safety. And because of all the mismatches that you can make is why I have him at number 1. He can play and work in a variety of schemes, as well as he's an incredibly high football IQ. The more and more scouting reports I read, the more and more people said he's an absolute, studier of the game. Was like the prodigy, if you will, of Nick Saban. We all know what happened. There's a reason why. Even though we rip on Nick Saban for being a 5'4", power-hungry, paying-off recruit type guy at Alabama, his corners, for the most part, are pretty damn productive once they go in the NFL. There's a couple busts here and there, but, for every, what was his name? For every, like, D. Milner and stuff like that, you get like a Landon Collins. So I think Minkah Fitzpatrick is everything that you want really in a safety this year's draft class, and I think he should be a top 5 pick. If we're looking at the negatives, the only really negative I could draw is really the combine. How good of an athlete is Minkah Fitzpatrick really? And I think we're going to find out that he might not test as well as Derwin James. He might not even test as well as his teammate Ronnie Harrison. But I think it's going to be numbers that, yeah, those are good enough. Those are acceptable numbers. And what we see from the football side of things makes you the clear number 1 safety in the draft class. So, yeah, I think that these are pretty fair at these rankings, even with good combines and stuff. I don't think they're going to change. They might have a safety that comes out of left field that might be able to jump into the top 5, but I don't really see Harrison, James, and Fitzpatrick, my top 3, really falling out. So that does it for me here today, guys. If you agree or disagree with my rankings, let me know in the comment section below. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, it's C4 saying I'm still sick. I got bronchitis, but I'll still able to record this stuff, finish the 2.0 ranking series, and yeah, let's go. Thank you all for watching. Till next time, later.